I was diagnosed with autism and ADHD as an adult. I was in my early 30s when I was diagnosed, and I was diagnosed with level 1 autism, which is what people often refer to as high functioning autism. And I want to talk today a bit about some of the struggles with that with that label and with the reality behind it. So, often people don't realize what a struggle it is to have level 1 autism. I mean, I know a few people who have that level 1 autism who are doing much better than me. I mean, they have got jobs, they've got families, they've got their own home, they've got things in life pretty much sorted. They've achieved things and they're doing fairly well. But I'm not one of those people, and I'm actually not functioning that well at all. And the hard thing though is that people often don't see that struggle, because they see me and they see that I do have a somewhat independent life. And by somewhat independent, I don't mean I'm completely independent. I'm not financially I'm not financially independent. I don't live on my own, but I'm independent in the sense, like, I drive my own car. I can organize things in my life. I make my own decisions on, like, the things I do in life. I'm a creative person. I've got projects that I always work on, and so I'm capable of independent decision making, and I'm able to, like, on my good days, I'm able to do pretty normal things like going to social events, obviously always with certain accommodations. I get involved in certain things, meet people. I can do that. But what people don't know is that I can't do that every day, and I can't do that all the time. And I often end up having to cancel plans that I was really looking forward to, simply because I'm not functioning, or I'm not in the right headspace, or I'm not able to do it, or I just feel like my body is not able to do it. And and that sort of thing, it can be quite unpredictable. So it's not always the same every day. Some days it's better, some days it's worse, and I don't always know when it's going to be better and worse. Like, I can't always predict it. And so I'm just, on the one hand I do need structure and predictability, but on the other hand it's very difficult to create that. And that can be a real struggle, and it's really hard when other people don't understand it or don't see it, or especially when they don't want to understand it, or they don't want to, like, hear it when I try and explain it to them. And I've got, like, certain struggles that people who don't know me well, they wouldn't expect me to have those struggles. Like, people who only know and see the good side of me, the functioning side, the person that shows up to events, that's the person that's like fun and full of ideas and, you know, like all the good sides of me. Yeah, so, oops, sorry, I just got distracted. Where was I going with this? Yeah, so certain people who only see those good sides of me, you know, they might think I'm really cool, I'm really talented, I'm really, you know, I'm gifted. But what they don't see is the meltdowns that I get and, you know, the really difficult moments. And I've had a few experiences lately where I did have meltdowns. One of those experiences was yesterday when I went to this library. It was a library that I've never been to as part of a school, and I went with a person who goes to that school and who's familiar with that place. Yeah, so I went there, and like normally, like I expect libraries to be pretty quiet spaces, you know, pretty chill, pleasant spaces where I feel fairly safe. But yeah, it's quite a big space, and the library I went to, and there was, so I was on, like, it's all sort of open plan and there are different areas. So I was in one area, then in another area there was I could hear somebody, like, they were talking quite loudly, like in a very loud voice, and from listening to them I could tell that this person has got a severe kind of disability where they're not able to control that themselves, so, and probably don't understand, like, they're in a quiet space and they need to be quiet. And yeah, so that person was talking loudly for a while, and I was trying to do something and focus on something, and I found myself just finding it really hard. And then at some point, like, that person started to scream and to cry. And the thing is, I didn't actually see that person. So I just heard them. Because that person was in the other area. And like, when I heard them screaming and crying and have some kind of a meltdown, like, I really started to feel distressed. And you know, and the thing is, when I'm distressed, yeah, the best thing would have been to just leave that place straight away, already before that meltdown happened, because I was already getting quite activated just by hearing that person talking loudly. But the thing is, sometimes I'm really struggling to make decisions when I'm under stress. And there was a situation where I was under more stress than I realized in the moment. So yeah, when they had the meltdown, I was like, okay, I need to go outside, and I did. And so I was alone when all of this was happening, and the person who I was with had gone to get a coffee in the meantime and was out for quite a while, so they didn't hear what was going on. So I went outside, and then the other person comes over, and then I tell them what's been happening, and that I'm triggered because there's this disabled person out there who's or in there who's like making a lot of noise, and it's difficult for me to deal with that. And and the way I said it, it wasn't like I wasn't like being mean towards that person. I understood that this person was under distress, and I wasn't like trying to say this in a mean way. But yeah, the other person said, oh, this is an inclusive library and these people got a right to be here, and people are going to just have to deal with it. And yeah, like, I understood where they're coming from, but for some reason in that moment I felt triggered by that comment, because I felt like the person was making it out like I was being mean to that disabled person, rather than seeing what it was really about, which is I am stressed because I also have a disability, and I just got really overwhelmed by what's been going on in there by that noise, because I've got this noise sensitivity. I'm really sensitive to noise, like really, really sensitive. And yeah, so I was really, upset because this person didn't really understand me and what I was going through, and I had to sort of defend myself. And I didn't feel completely understood by the other person. I felt very stressed. I just couldn't calm down. And yeah, so I sat out there for a little while, and then I just decided to go back in and just try and finish what I'd been doing there, which was to look at some stuff in there that I was interested in. And I thought I'll just go in there and see if that person's quiet now, if it's, if they've calmed down. And they did. But I don't know, like for some reason, like I just wasn't calm anymore, and I was totally activated. And I just started to like get really frustrated, and I started to like go off on this rant where I was just getting really frustrated, and I was saying, this is so difficult, like I need quiet spaces. I understand people have to be included, but I don't feel included because I need spaces to be quiet and predictable, and I guess, if they make the space like accessible to people who can't keep it quiet, then I guess it's not accessible for me. And and I'm not saying that they shouldn't make it accessible to people like that other disabled person who was having a meltdown. I'm not saying that. I guess what I was trying to say is how frustrated I was that like there are so few spaces these days that are truly quiet and predictable. And this has been a theme in my life lately, like a big theme. Of just going to spaces that previously used to be quiet and predictable, and realizing that they are not anymore. Expecting a place to be quiet and predictable, but then going there and being surprised by the fact that it's not. And Yeah, so this is something that I've just been really struggling with, and that I've already been carrying with me like over the last weeks or months, especially the last weeks and days. And so it just all came to the surface, and I was like, so I was having this rant, and it wasn't loud. I wasn't like loudly ranting for everyone to hear, but just more like quietly to that person that I was with. And like it just came out of me, and I just couldn't control it. Like the only thing I really could control was like the volume at which I was talking. And um, and yeah, so I was able to control that, but I wasn't able to control like just the fact that I was just venting all my frustration to that person. But that person, unfortunately, like they really didn't understand me, and they just kept dismissing my feelings in that moment, and then they also got upset because of I was getting really agitated and a bit angry, and I was saying a few things that actually weren't very nice, and I didn't mean them, but I said them like in the moment. Yeah, it just comes out sometimes, and I'm not saying this to make excuses. I wish I didn't struggle with this. I really wish I didn't have this anger and like these outbursts of frustration sometimes. And I do feel really bad that I have them. And I do feel bad about like mean things that I might say in the moment. So yeah, the other person got upset, and then I got even more distressed because I needed them to be there for me and support me, but that person was also pushed beyond their limits with me, and didn't know how to help me, didn't really know what I needed, and then I just felt very alone and helpless, and I started to, I don't know, yeah, I guess what happened then, and I didn't realize this to the full extent, but I started attracting attention from other people that were like looking at me, and then there was like a girl with Down syndrome coming over to me, and I mean she wasn't really able like to talk in full sentences, but she was just like she was angry, and she just made it clear that she was angry at me, and because the other person who was with me, they tried to talk to her, but she was just pointing at me and saying, oh, it's me, like she's angry at me, she wants me to go. Basically, that's what I understood her saying. And, like, that just really upset me. And, yeah, it just upset me. Like, because I really didn't mean to hurt anybody in that moment. But clearly I did. Clearly I was upsetting several people in that moment, and apparently there was also a security guard who was looking over at me and started to, I don't know, get suspicious. And I didn't see that, but the other person told me later that, this security guard had an eye on me. And I mean, yeah, I was, like I said, I wasn't very loud. I was trying to keep it quiet, but I was just distressed and angry and frustrated. And I wasn't able to really stop it and, like, gain full control over this. And, yeah, like, this is something that I really, really struggle with, and something that I've been trying to work on. But I just, like, it's really, really hard. It's a really difficult one, and and I'm going through a lot at the moment, which I won't go into now. I won't go into it all, but I'm going through a lot emotionally at the moment. And when I've got a lot on my plate, it's even harder. Like normally it doesn't happen. I don't always get angry like that. It's just on my bad days when I already feel like I've got a lot on my plate. Like I've got some emotions in me that are really burdening me, like some trauma from the past or something that's coming up to the surface, which happens quite regularly. I think, once a month it starts to all just bubble up, which is connected to like my hormones and menstrual cycle. So yeah, I didn't realize like how stressed I actually was just until that moment. But what I did do then, I was like, okay, well, I need to go outside now again. I need to get out of here, and I need to like leave this environment. I don't want to hurt other people. I don't want to embarrass myself. Like, I need to calm down. But then I went outside and I was trying to talk to the other person, but then the other person just like kept being angry at me for having this reaction, and just kept adding fuel to the fire. And I was just completely overwhelmed at that point. Like I just couldn't cope anymore. And then yeah, it's just like basically I just broke out. Like I just erupted into a full-blown meltdown. And I was crying very loudly, and I was just completely in a meltdown at that point. And, it's an awful experience when you are in a public place and you're having a meltdown like that. And it doesn't happen to me all the time. It's not a regular experience for me. But it does happen now and then. And when it happens, it's a really horrible experience to go through. But in the moment that I was having that meltdown, I was just in this state where I'm just like, okay, I'm just going to let it happen now. I need people to see that I am struggling too, and that I also have a disability. Like, why should I have to always shut down while other people get to have meltdowns and they get to have like support and understanding, and I just don't? And like these were the thoughts that were going through my mind, and I couldn't control it anymore. I just broke out, and I was like, okay, I'm not going to try and stop that now. So, yeah, that's what happened. And, yeah, so that was one experience that happened, and then today I had another experience where I had a meltdown again. This time I was at home. And I won't go into it in detail, but it was a similar situation. I was actually dealing with someone at work who has autism, and I don't really want to go and explain like the whole work situation, but yeah, anyway, this person was like what people call, like very high support needs autism, like level 3, I think. Someone who just needs like a lot of support all the time and can't live independently at all. And I was in a situation where I had to deal with a person like that. and I didn't expect to have to deal with that person. And and it was like, again, I wasn't equipped for this situation, and like nothing bad happened in a sense. I didn't like get angry or anything at this person, but I was just really overwhelmed with the situation. And and then later when I came home, I just erupted in a full-blown meltdown, because I was trying to talk to someone about it, and that person just wouldn't understand me. And they just kept saying, oh, you just have to deal with that person. They're really severely autistic, and like you just have to like put up with them. But I was in a situation where I just wasn't able to. And I was just really distressed. And then again, I felt so dismissed and invalidated. And, and I kept saying to this person, yeah, but I have a disability too. And I also have needs that need to be accommodated. And today in that work situation, they were not. And now I might have to, leave this work situation because, because I can't deal with that person, and I'm going to be exposed to that person in that situation and having to deal with them, and I just don't know how to do it. And I'm really under a lot of stress because like this job, it doesn't actually involve me working with people. Like it's not a people-facing role. So like basically I'm just cleaning a house. But I've got this person there and who lives there, and they're not supervised while I'm cleaning there. So, and I just can't deal with it. Then I'm being put in this role where I have to like, to some degree, supervise them and like tell them not to like interfere with the work I'm doing. And if they're not listening to me, like it's really, really difficult. And I'm just not equipped to to deal with people who've got severe disabilities, and that doesn't mean that I don't like these people, that I'm that I'm mean to them, that I any like I don't know any I don't think it's not them. Like I know they've got needs and I know they've got disabilities, and but so do I. And with them it's like, their disabilities, they are visible and they get taken seriously and they get understood and they get accommodated. And like sometimes that does create a bit of a resentment in me, and I'm gonna be honest about that. Like it does, because I've gone through life like without being diagnosed for anything, just being pushed really hard, like not understanding myself, not having any support or accommodations, even though I desperately would have needed them. And it does sometimes bring like resentment, but also grief when I do see other people whose disabilities are more visible than mine, and I see how they they get support, they get help, they don't have to like work for their money or struggle with survival and things like that, and I do feel that way. It doesn't mean that I have any ill wishes towards them, like I don't, but I do feel these things, and I'm not, I'm trying my best not to like let them get the better of me or let them hurt other people. So I have to just have a lot of awareness and like self-control, and really I'm trying my best. But the thing is, I do have a disability, as well, and it just looks different and it's not clearly visible to people all the time. And I've grown up learning how to, like, learning to mask it very heavily, learning to hide it, and just always playing the strong one, like I've got it all together, and like being really afraid of like showing vulnerability. Yeah, so it's very complex. It's very complex. And yeah, I just want to share these things and just explain them, and I hope that maybe there are some other people out there who can relate to this and who maybe find this helpful, and feel validated by this. And yeah, I think one last point that I just want to share is, I've always, because I haven't had my diagnoses, and I didn't understand that I do have autism and ADHD, and that I do have genuine disability. I just grew up with a feeling that I'm simply a bad person. And because I didn't, people often thought that I was just being like difficult, or I was like being rude, or like when I was like angry or frustrated or upset with something, it was often dismissed and not taken seriously. Like they didn't like take it seriously that something was going on. And and the thing is, like, when you do have autism and ADHD, like, it can be really hard to communicate, and often that communication just happens like via emotions, and that's going to trigger other people, and then they get angry, and like often you just end up just with people angry at you and painting you as a bad person, rather than realizing that no, like, something's happened and this person needs support. So I haven't really had that growing up. I haven't like felt like there was anyone who really understood me and who was on my side and who didn't just dismiss and invalidate me. And I guess that's why today I'm having a really hard time with people invalidating and dismissing me, and it's a big trigger for me, and it does create some meltdowns for me, and it's difficult to live with. Yeah, okay, well, I think I've said enough now, and yeah, it's just good to share this.